So the only thing we have to discuss is warrant articles, which we've pretty much run through all of ours. We've brought a new one to the table. It's number 16, the last one there. To see if the town will vote to rescind Article 6 on the 2014 warrant that named the library trustees agents to expend for the library capital reserve fund. Oh, you know what? Excuse me 1 second. I forgot some notes.
Yep, articles are numbered wrong. Our articles are numbered wrong. Confusing, isn't it?
Well, they're gonna
Yeah.
change anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
because your warrant comes first.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
petitions
And
are
so you get those two, and usually I think this one's
Right.
3.
Yeah, yep, so the first thing is to elect officers, the second is the budget, and then we go from there.
So this will be.
so- Jim Griffin emailed me and asked if if we would consider changing the wording to the first one that, on the list there for the veterans credit. And basically he wants to change wherever it says adopt to re-adopt, which I think I did on one of them just to see what it looked like. Yep.
Re-adopt.
Yep, yeah, and that's what he would prefer it to read as. I don't really see an issue with
It
it.
probably should say if re-adopted.
Yep,
Down
yeah, just change I just changed the first one.
here, the credit will be available
Yep.
to any residents of this state who is a veteran.
I guess I changed a couple of them, didn't I? I've been out of my mind today, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Are you okay with changing it to re-adopt? I don't know that it
Yes.
should make a difference, right?
It doesn't, but he's afraid that
People will think it's,
it's something different.
that it's something
Right.
new, that it's one
Yeah,
more
and
veterans
it's not.
credit. Which I did address in our,
Yeah.
did I turn that in? Yeah, I did, our
Because
end of
then
year
she'll
report
have
too.
to be explaining every
Yeah.
time we turn around.
Yeah. He also wanted added at the end, readoption was made necessary by New Hampshire House Bill 1667, which amended eligibility criteria for certain veterans' property tax credits. I feel like we're getting to the point where this is gonna be so long, nobody's gonna read it. I don't know if it matters, but
Just add it to your report.
I do have that in our
You
report,
should be all right.
you know. Yeah, good with that, Lee?
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not really costing them any money.
Right. I did add, since the last time we talked, I did add to the library, or the ambulance one, no amount to be raised from additional taxation,
Yep.
just to make sure that was clear. And then we had talked about the bridge one, which is number 8, the top of the next page. And I'm basing this off of, what the school does. So I just added, right, so the $50,000 to be placed in the previously established bridge capital reserve fund, this sum to come from the unreserved fund balance, no amount to be raised from additional taxation.
Yeah.
So we had talked about doing that too, so. And we already recommended for all of them except for the new one. Which I'm sorry, I did not add that in, that's how today's gone. I was gonna type all that in for you, but no, you'll have to do it yourself.
Selectmen recommended?
Yeah,
Yes,
That's fine.
we're recommending on the
that's not too bad.
library agent one as well?
18 warrants. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Do we want to leave them in this order, or do we wanna change them around so we've got things better placed, some of them better placed?
I don't think it makes any difference,
Okay.
really.
Probably put the more important ones at the beginning.
That's the advice I've been given in the
Yeah,
past, is that if you
can put the money
really,
ones in first. You put the big money first.
the big money, but the other ones, the kind of standard ones don't matter so much. Cause we didn't necessarily do it, it wasn't all the money ones first and then the other ones last year.
Right. But that's
We can bump up,
enough of the course.
yeah. Well, that one's already up there.
15, 16,
You want 15 and 16 up in like,
higher,
So they don't get tired.
Yep,
I guess stick a breed
4
in.
and 5. Right after the one about giving us permission to deal with town property.
Yep.
Between that and discontinuing the 2-cent rec field.
Oh,
Reserve? Yeah, that was
You
silly.
could do that last.
Right,
That's
move
real-
15 and 16 to 4 and 5,
Yeah,
and then
then 4 to,
make 4, 6, and go down from there? Or do we wanna move anything else? There's kinda no real rhyme or reason to the rest of them, just happened to be the order that I was running through budgets. This building gets me going. This is the second day in a row I came in and sat down and all of a sudden started sniffling again.
I've been coughing and hacking anyway.
Good with that, Lee?
yep.
That's what
Right.
happens when old age catches up.
And I've still got my laptop, so I can even flip these around and do them and send them to you. And then print them out for the budget committee so they've got them for their hearing.
Okay.
And I'll send them off to them too, if you don't mind, as long as it's the end of your workday and I'm never done.
I'm not gonna complain.
That's
Then there were-
Thursday night, right?
Yeah, yeah, budget hearings, public budget hearings at 7. The budget committee meets at 6 and they'll go over warrant articles then, because they have to make recommendations on the
Yep.
moneyed ones. So there were only 3 petition warrant articles that came in. 2 from Gary Whitney and 1 from Andrew Cushing.
Okay, so read 'em.
And so the Andrew Cushing one is, will the town vote to raise and appropriate $210,000 for the purposes of constructing the first phase of a new library at 2 Library Road, also known as the quote-unquote gray lot, donated to the town for this express purpose. $40,000 to come from the existing library improvement capital reserve fund and $170,000 to be accepted as a gift from the Friends of the Grafton Library. This phase will include the pouring of a concrete slab, the assembly of a barn frame already acquired and disassembled by Fogel, a roof, and exterior envelope. Further, to delegate the construction of the library to the library trustees, no money to be raised from taxation. And once we get all of the warrant articles put together, I believe we're required to send them to the DRA. So we'll find out what they have to
Yeah.
say about if we have things worded right or whatever, the validity of any of them. Gary Whitney, first one is to see if the town of Grafton shall require a search warrant to enter private land for the purpose of an investigation against a landowner or its inhabitants unless permission of its owner is expressed. Government investigators or inspectors shall be made aware and have a responsibility to know that they are disallowed on private land for that, as at least civil trespassing, regardless of no signage. The town of Grafton shall annually send or confirm a letter on file to notice this article with all government investigative agencies with expected searches in Grafton, including the sheriff, Fish and Game, FBI, ATF, etc. Copies are to be publicly available. Any information or evidence collected in disagreement with this article for ongoing issues shall be immediately invalidated and returned, and resulting penalties shall be dropped. Oh, by the way, I went through the checklist and checked off all the names, and I didn't realize when I got these, because they were stuck together in one paper clip, that there were 2 separate ones. So I thought these were all duplicates. I started crossing them off, but it's actually it's a separate warrant, so they're good. The signatures are good. The second one from Gary is to see if the town of Grafton shall require a building notification for buildings only, including manufactured housing. A building has been and continues to be defined as a structure permanently fixed to the ground with permanent siding and a roof. All vehicles, there's a lot of permanent houses in this town that don't have permanent siding. Anyway, all vehicles, boats, tents, RVs, tent carports, campers, custom or otherwise, and other mobile or temporary structures are exempt. And they've all got at least 25 valid registered voters that have signed.
Actually, a building notification is only for residence. If you wanna build a barn, a garage, a shed, you just write a note and you to the selectman's office and say, I am building a barn. It's this size, whatever size it is.
Mhm.
It's not gonna have any running water, and they just note that so that when it's time for the assessors to do the pickups,
Yeah.
that's when they pick it up.
Yeah. Mr. Fritz has one in his file that says that he was building a shed. The problem is that he converted that shed to a dwelling.
Right,
He
and
didn't
when-
bother doing anything.
And when you're going to convert a garage or a barn or whatever to a dwelling, then you have to have a building notification.
Yep. If you're gonna live in it, it makes sense to me. If you're gonna
And
live in it.
according to state law, I believe, if you have a camper, even if it's registered and you live in it as a dwelling, you get taxed for it.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I remember
I
they
mean,
changed that just a few years
It's
ago.
nothing we have done.
Oh, right. Yep. Okay. Anything else?
Not that I know of.
I think we're set.
I think we came for warrant articles, and that's all we can discuss.
Yep.
Warrant articles.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Are there public comments? Is the select board meeting or no?
No, it's just to do warrant articles. Do you have something you wanna say? I
I
don't
mean, I have a
care.
comment, yeah. So for this library thing, it seems way more complicated than I'm gonna be able to wrap my head around. I've been talking to people and asking around. To me, the thing that seems like it just doesn't make sense is we, the taxpayers, you, the select board, can approve, voters can approve, like, this building costs this much to build, okay, fine, all the costs are covered. But if the running costs, operating costs are really, really, really expensive, a lot more expensive than what we're paying now, like the voters / taxpayers should be able to weigh in on that and be able to approve something like this, a new building, with that going ahead, because that's gonna impact how much our taxes are gonna go up if the operating costs are much more. So I don't know if that's kind of in a nutshell what the issue is, but it seems like that should be made very clear to the
Which is why
voters.
we agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's why we would not put it on, because there is not a plan and we don't know what those costs are. Yeah, absolutely.
So is there, since we haven't been in a town meeting, is there someone who's going to make these points simply like when it's time for us to all come together to discuss this? Is this a
Deliberative
point?
session in February.
On the 10th,
11.
11th, sorry.
That's okay.
It'll all be brought up then.
So someone is
The
taking
library will,
charge to.
the library will be there, we'll all be there, and we'll go over each one of these.
So what typically
And
happens
argue,
with petition warrant articles is the moderator will ask, which is why I said Gary Whitney delivered these, Andrew Cushing delivered this. The moderator will typically ask that person to come up and speak to their warrant article.
Okay,
There'll be a motion on the floor to open it for discussion,
okay.
and.
So then I'll have my opportunity to give that
Yes,
little
absolutely.
30-second speech and try
Yep.
to make sure everybody understands that.
Yep.
Okay. So as of right now, nobody knows what the cost impacts, other than 210,000, are gonna be next year, next year, till we all die. Nobody knows that, right?
Right.
There's no plan.
They have
Okay.
no plan that can tell us that.
All right, I think
They
that's.
purchased an old dilapidated barn that had like 34 cats in it.
Yeah, no,
And,
I've
crazy.
just been hearing other towns that have done something similar and it cost them way too much money and now
Right.
they're in a pickle, right? Kinda
Yep.
like the school district and like you're kinda locked in, so anyway,
Yep.
that's my comment.
Yep. All right, now we can second your motion to adjourn. You're just in
It
time.
says, just in time to leave.
Yeah.